This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Hello.
Well, let's get back to it.
Britain is expacing. Britain is expacing. I think you'll find that is correct. Furthermore, Britain is bracing and expecting an Arctic blast with temperatures of minus 10 degrees centigrade and more than a foot of snow expected to sweep across the country as major cities activate emergency plans. It's winter. Can everybody please calm down? The Met Office has warned.
Warning.
Up to 40 centimetres of snow could blanket parts of the UK, and up to, it clearly includes the number 0. Up to 40 centimetres of snow could blanket parts of the UK, with fears that rural communities may be cut off amid widespread travel chaos.
Oh, no.
And Europeans surrender 40 centimetres equals, in His Majesty's feet and inches, double it and add 32. Well, this is easy. 40 times 2 is 80, and 80 plus 32 is 112. There's going to be 112 feet of snow. Can you believe that?
No,
I bet none of this happens. They talk about the weather these days like we're in a disaster film. It's a snowpocalypse. It's a weather emergency. I mean, Weather-mageddon.
Emergency, everybody to get from street. Emergency, everybody to get from street.
The forecaster has put in place a yellow snow warning for most of England and the whole of Wales until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, which is weirdly specific. You're in danger tomorrow until a minute to midnight, after which everything will be fine. Check your watches. Rural Scotland land is bracing for temperatures as low as minus 10 degrees centigrade tonight. 2 new amber weather warnings are in effect from right now, with warnings that snow and freezing rain across Wales and the Midlands could lead to travel delays, road closures and power cuts. But as that is just your normal average day in Nothing Works Britain, you won't notice the difference. The Arctic conditions will then sweep into northern England and Scotland from around 6 a.m. in the morning tomorrow, before the weather warms up to 55 Fahrenheit in parts of the south. Wow, 55 degrees. That's positively balmy. We'll take it. Texts and other types of messages from yesterday. This one is a bit of a downer, so prepare yourself. It says, I need to get this on my chest. That's how it starts. I'm just reading it as written. I need to get this on my chest. And the rest of it's not happy. I've just come home from a shift at the local winter night shelter. I thought I was volunteering with kind, considerate people, but I realised that most of these volunteers are racists. I'm a person of colour but not Muslim. They started talking about Starmer and not doing anything about the boat people. He's building houses only for them, and one hates Labour and watches GBN. And then it was about the grooming gang, and the team leader made a joke about pork and Muslims, and I can't believe the blatancy. One of the rules is if a guest, in inverted commas, is racist, then we have to warn them, and if they continue, they're ejected. I don't know what to do, Nick. I feel so sad and disappointed. I don't really feel I want to go back. Sadly, I did it last winter and it was okay. Blimey. Talk about starting on a down note. This says, I heard in the news that Nigel Farage has been speaking in Leicester today. Can anybody let the people of Clacton know that Leicester will be the closest he gets to them in 2025?
Nigel Farage is not fit and proper to be in government.
Lara says, I'm beginning to think that this country is so full of morons worshipping Farage and Trump and Musk that I worry about the young children who are listening to this bile. Pity the children. David Paul says, Nick, I think we are doomed as a country. Half the country are complete idiots with nothing between the ears. Then they're allowed to enter polling booths and vote the country they themselves live in down the Swanee. The Swanee. I don't know. These are messages from yesterday. Maybe there was something in the air yesterday. I think people were having like a post-Christmas, like a gloom fest. They were in a funk. Not this kind of funk. The other kind of funk. And we were talking about darts, and we went down a long rabbit hole about how you pronounce the word darts, which is darts. But I was speaking to a bloke in Ireland who said darts, which is not the way you say it. And this message says, hearing that Irish bloke say darts in a London accent, well, it wasn't a London accent. In that accent, it's giving me the willies. Sounds like I'm hearing the T-2000 Terminator.
Correct.
That wasn't the T-2000, was it? I think the T-2000 was a polymetal alloy. Liquid metal.
Affirmative.
Paul in Kennington says, it's only a sport if you have to change your shoes to play it. Yeah, we were talking about darts last night. It's only a sport if you have to change your shoes to play it. Let me think about that. No. And in relation to that, Tony texts, what use is snooker in real life? And is that a sport or golf? Neither. Snooker's not a sport and golf is not a sport. And you have to change your shoes to play golf because of, all the blooming rules that the golfists keep coming up with. Oh, you can't have your shirt untucked and all this silly nonsense. I mean, that is one of the reasons I'm not remotely interested in playing golf. Apart from the golf part.
Boring.
The people that play it will put you off. And you play on your own and they won't let you. They almost, it's as though they take pity on you and want to subsume you into their group. Well, I don't want to play with them. Golf bores. And you're stuck with them for hours while they snigger at your pathetic performance, me not being able to play. My handicap in golf is that I can't play it very well. John says, working class people watch darts. Middle class people make jokes about the people who watch darts on TV. Upper class people don't know what darts is. What's darts, Smug?
I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. He not only doesn't know anything about darts, but he doesn't know anything about anything.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
Everything's just... it's just too much effort for him. Don't you understand? It says, Dear Nicholas, I love your voice. I also love Jacob Rees-Mogg's voice. I hate my voice. I'm from Northern Ireland, says this texter. Arr, arr, arr. And I consider the way I talk as a handicap. What can I do, Nick? That's what spelled W-O-T. No? Close. I don't have a glamorous assistant yet, by the way. I'm still in want of one. I'm sitting here, it's like the Mary Celeste. I'm here on my blooming own. I don't want you to be alarmed. Anyway, it says, Dear Nicholas, I love your voice, and I also love Jacob Rees-Mogg's voice. I hate my voice. I'm from Northern Ireland. Arr, arr, arr. Oh, we got up to that. And I consider the way I talk as a handicap. What can I do? You even giggle in English. If I went to elocution lessons, could I speak as posh as you and Jacob? Well, Carol McGiffin went to elocution lessons.
Oh, right, yeah.
If you can believe that. She actually did. We were explaining that. She was telling me that story on a recent podcast, What We Did. We have, by the way, I know I've mentioned this occasionally, done 299 podcasts.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the 300th is coming out on Monday, and I do believe that you'll find it a hoot and a half. It's double the length of the average episode, and it is us talking about and reading out people's milestones. I do believe that you're going to love it. It's available on Global Player, and the thing to ask for is, what is your problem with Nick and Carol? Because the idea of the thing is that we solve people's problems. We're a problem-solving service. If you have a problem that you want us to solve, like a dilemma or like a real life issue or, something that is significant or insignificant, something you really want the answer to or something you just wish us to say amusing things about, everything is acceptable. Nick and Carol at global.com. That's what to send it to. Nick and Carol at global.com. The 300th episode, the mega episode, is coming out on Monday of What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol. It's LBC.
LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again.
It's a radio show, dear. 0345 6060 973. This text says, where do hamsters actually live in the wild, by the way? And we were talking about the stuff we were on about last night. It's just a fair blows my mind thinking about it. If you want to hear that again, by the way, then you can. And we put these shows, the Friday and Saturday night shows, and the A to Zs, by the way. All the A to Z shows are up as podcasts, and it's called Nick Abbott The Whole Show Podcast. That's what to ask for. I know I'm giving you a lot of information. You want to write this stuff down. Where was I? Oh, yeah, we were talking about hamstered in relation to darts and trying to figure how darts could be used in the real world. I mean, if it's, such a sport, as some people do insist, how could it possibly be used in the real world? You can think most Olympic sports are about survival, running away, swimming away, fighting in various forms, jumping over things, that kind of thing. It's survival skills. But what do you do with darts? I mean, you couldn't bring down a moose, but you could bring down a hamster, I thought. And that upset a lot of people because, they used to have hamsters as pets, even though they do stink the place out and then get lost in the heating. Where do hamsters actually live in the wild, by the way, says this messenger. And somebody had the answer to that. Wild hamsters primarily inhabit dry, open areas with loose soil suitable for burrowing. These habitats include, but are not limited to, grasslands, farmlands, meadows, steppes, and sand dunes. Apparently, some hamster species survive in sandy environments where they can easily dig burrows. You'd think they would collapse. Stupid hamsters. Hamsters, it says, are excellent diggers and create elaborate burrow systems with multiple entrances, nesting chambers, and food storage areas. Well, that sounds pretty good. Maybe we should all be more like hamsters. These burrows provide protection from predators and harsh weather conditions. There you are, you see, you've learned something. And if you'll learn nothing else from this show, then sadly you will have learned nothing else from this show. Maidstone, hello, Tony.
Hi, Nick, sorry. Hi. No, honestly, I don't know what it is with your show. I'm waiting on hold, and then you're talking... Yeah, now, I never actually get to finish what I want to say. This is why I love your show.
I go on and on, yes.
No. Yeah, I had a hamster when I was a bit younger, in my teenage years.
Oh, yeah.
But it got a bit old and it went bald. But then you mentioned mooses.
Bald.
Have you seen how big mooses are in America?
They're huge. They're absolutely massive.
Yeah, I know. I saw this thing on Instagram recently, and it was just moose just going around the main road. Oh dear, sorry, you do make me laugh.
Got to have a laugh, isn't you? Is it true that if you change your shoes to play it, then it's defined as a sport?
What? Darts?
No, anything. If you change your shoes to play it. Is that the definition? Yeah, I thought that was rubbish as well.
It's absolute rubbish.
Nonsense.
Come on.
Yes.
I spoke to you yesterday, but I sent a text because you had a caller. I'm moaning about some callers in my thing. Please give me the time to explain this. This is important. Now, you had a caller saying that gymnastics wasn't a sport.
Oh, what an idiotic thing to say.
That is one of the most athletic sports that you can find.
It's the method by which you can show how the human body can perform. No other sport shows you the intricate ways in which the human body can perform like a monkey.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this goes on to what I wanted to talk about. Because, do you know what? Regarding the right-wing press, you had the caller called Stephen, bless Stephen, yesterday, and he was going, well, all I've heard this government coming in was blaming it on the Tories. I've got to congratulate you. Yeah. You held your call. If I were you, I would have screamed and hung up on him. It's because it's their fault. And then there was another caller called Kate. And I tell you what, I think they always want us to go bonkers. You've got the city ones already been taken, and I think they're coming for us next. You'll be last because you're high up on the food chain. They want us to go bonkers.
I'm not.
Working.
They can make me go bonkers, no problem at all. When they call James O'Brien, that's when you see them disintegrate into their constituent molecules into a blubbering mess on the floor.
Yeah. No, yeah, but no, you and James are my favourite. But anyway, right, now before... I've got to say, you know, you did something with Tara McGiffin about, like, I didn't send you anything, because on the 2nd of January, you were going to, like, say any achievements. I had an achievement today, and I want to share it with everyone. I refereed my first game in 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
Good game. It finished 1-1. I'm coming back. 6 yellow cards, 1 penalty to the wayside. Everyone was happy.
6 yellow cards.
Yeah, that's not that many.
You were a bit handy with the cards, Tony.
Yeah,
you could have let a couple of them slide. Be honest.
No, I do, but they respect me because I'm quite well known. But I gave a penalty. No, everyone's happy. It was just they're easy ones, like bad tackles. But you know, I don't really have many red cards. I've had 3 in one game, but I've been refereeing over 20 years. So
at what level?
I enjoyed it.
At what level do you referee?
Level 4. So
what
this
does that
is
mean?
like Conference South.
Okay.
Not at the moment. But,
so
you know,
these are stadia in which you can hear every single syllable that is uttered by the crowd. They're not being drowned out by tens of thousands of other people. You can hear every single one of them. Why do you keep going back for that punishment?
No, I enjoy it, Nick, because it keeps me fit, you know. But I read because you can qualify like 14 or 16, but you have to start at like Sunday league pub level.
Yeah.
And that's where it's dangerous. So I had a friend who was 15. Well, I was 15 at the time. He made national newspaper, like national news. He got punched in the face by a spectator.
I'm amazed that the players don't do that because, I mean, you know, there's not cameras pointing at them. They could just do it and run away and pretend it wasn't them. You know, at the Premier League level, then you don't get away with anything because it's on super high definition and they can slow it down. They can even they even cover their mouths so that people can't lip read what they're saying.
No,
but I would imagine that doesn't happen at your level.
Yeah, well, it does, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Like, I've qualified in 2001, so it was really bad then, but there's a lot more being done. There's still a lot of dissent, but it just depends on what type of referee. More than half the referees who qualify, it's quite an easy course, give up after a year because they just can't deal with it.
Well, I would imagine.
Build a thick skin. Yeah,
it'd be like being a policeman without any of the power.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to be a policeman. I don't know how they do that job. Yeah, so, before you go, so I'm all over the place again, so I've got, what did my notes say? Nigel Farage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've had a lot of these people say, because they're the people who shout the loudest. I'll tell you what, all of my family vote Conservative. I don't, apart from 1 or 2, but my nan's not with us now, but they... You know, during that, they hate Nigel Farage. That's why it took him 8 years. So I don't think he's got any chance of being prime minister. He has got
absolutely no chance.
No chance.
No.
Yeah. So
not in this country. In another country, perhaps nearby, he might stand a chance, but not in this country. No chance.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what. I don't think it's right that Elon Musk should be donating.
No.
That should be against the law.
Keir Starmer, here's the thing, Keir Starmer. You've got a limited window of opportunity to nip this in the bud. Get on with it. Just do it. Forget about upsetting Donald Trump because he's going to get upset anyway.
Yep. Yeah, and then 16 and 17, if that's going through, I think that's a good thing. 16 and 17-year-olds. Yep. I'm being a bit smug now, Nick. So all these right-wingers who listen to you, ring up and tell us why Nigel Farage...
No, you don't get to direct this show, mate. No, you're not referee of this show.
No.
Okay, well, that's a red card, Tony. You're off. Thanks a lot, mate. Sasha from Merstham texts, have you watched Red One, the $250 million Amazon Prime Video Christmas movie? No. That's an old film, isn't it? Didn't have Bruce Willis and Helen Mirren? Isn't that Red One? I bet McGlamorous, he's got his hand in the air like he just don't care, yes?
There is a new one.
A new one?
There is. It came out this year.
Of the same film?
I don't know if it's the same film.
A remake?
I haven't watched the original, so I can't tell you, but I do know there's a new...
Because that got stinky reviews, that Bruce Willis Red One. I thought... They made 2 of them, didn't they? But just because it's a stinky film doesn't mean to say that they're going to make a lot of them. I mean, I'll give you all of the Transformers films for a start. This text says, hi, Nick, just been listening. I was surprised to hear you disagree with the caller view saying about Keir Starmer unpopularity. I'm just reading them as they're written. Hi, Nick. Having just been listening, I was surprised to hear you disagree with the caller view saying about Keir Starmer unpopularity. I respectfully disagree, as Keir is now, KNOW, known as an outright liar, and if people knew what they do now, he would never have been voted in. We will have to wait until Nigel F gets in next to see any positive changes in the UK. Hopefully, the UK can't withstand Keir and Khan's damages. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. I mean, when you've written your text or your email, just look it over, and if it's got those wiggly lines underneath, that means you've spelt something wrong. It's trying to help you. If you're using a phone, by the way, it is actually trying to use you as a product. You think you bought the phone as a product. The phone allowed you to buy it because you are the product. People think their phone is listening to them and they get called paranoid. Well, bad news, everybody. Your phone is actually listening to you. Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. That's another conversation that me and Carol had.
Yeah.
Yeah, she thinks her phone is listening to them, and I poo-pooed that notion. No, Carol. This is just you off on one of your unhinged conspiracy theory rants, I said. Turns out she was completely correct in every respect.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'll come to that in a minute. Merthyr Tydfil, Jeff.
Hi, Nick. Long
Jeff.
time no see. How you doing?
Oh, yes, very well.
Hey, never mind the phone. What about this Alexa woman? I think she's listening as well.
The Alexa woman, yeah.
Alexa. Anyway, tremendous program last night, Nick.
Oh, yes.
You told.
What was that?
I was Alexa.
Oh, really? Wow, that took a while. You said that like 3 weeks ago, it seems, and only now has it just burst into life.
I'm telling you, you got to watch these things.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, I would unplug it at the wall if I were you.
I will do that. Listen now, tremendous program last night, and you got really annoyed with people who were trying to blame the Labour Party for not doing things and all the rest of it. And it was terrific. I enjoyed it. But the whole program, I would say, was devoted to darts. You know,
to darts? What does that mean?
Well, that seems to be the total, complete program. Was talking about, was darts a sport? Was it, and all the rest of it?
Well, we mentioned it in passing. The whole program. We didn't do 3 hours on darts.
But you did mention one thing which struck a chord with me. You mentioned microbial fecal cloud. And I thought...
Fecal... you got that... Hang on a minute. You got that wrong. It's fecal flora cloudburst. Yes.
Oh, that's it. Is that the Reform Party? I just wondered, you know.
Jeff, you can say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
Okay. So the end result was that you seemed to be very irate about everything, and I was very taken with it. But I think it went out onto the ether, and nobody listened. I think the problem is if you talk like Aaron Banks said, if you just talk about politics, everybody switches off.
No, that's not what he said. He said no one is interested in facts anymore. You tell people facts and they just cloud over. We're all about feelings now, baby.
Emotions.
Yeah, and I think I gave emotion yesterday all over the radio.
I enjoyed it. It's just that this business, I have a proposition. You know, you say change your shoes. It's a sport.
Yeah. I don't agree with that.
I've always had the opinion that sport involves a team game where good players sacrifice part of the team to win the game.
Right,
That
yes.
you all play as a team.
That
I see
doesn't
as
constitute sport. That is not the definition of a sport, but that is
I know.
a sport. Yes, what you've just described is a sport, no doubt
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Doesn't necessarily mean that it should be part of the Olympics, but that is a different issue entirely. I mean, football obviously should not be a part of the Olympics. What is football doing in the Olympics?
Well, you make the point. I'm just saying that if you were talking about recreational sports like darts and snooker and stuff like that.
Motor racing.
I remember in the 1950s, there was a thing called Grandstand that came on the television, and the first thing they showed was horse racing.
Right. Well, that's
As a
not really a
sport.
sport either.
It's a sport of kings and the king of sports.
Yeah, although the horses do change their shoes to play, but I don't think that counts.
Yeah, that's a point. You made a good point there.
I made a good point. Nice to know. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, boys.
This text says, instead of using scone as a test for the wonderful Irish accent, these are messages from last night. We were discussing how to pronounce things. Instead of using scone as a test for the wonderful Irish accent, you should perhaps have asked your Irish caller to pronounce the word film, which the Irish pronounce as film. I personally find that pronunciation very annoying, says this texter. Just say movie. Or, as Austin Powers said, movie. I always wondered why he said that. Anybody know? In Austin Powers, one of the, I can't remember which one it was, maybe the first one, he said, I'm just going to watch a movie. Why did he say it like that? Pretty pleased with sugar on top, let me know. And Paul says, I dare you to look up the sport of hobby horsing. Enjoy. Am I going to regret this? Is this one of those things that you shouldn't put in a Google search?
Warning, warning.
Is this something pre-verted? One moment, please. Huh. It's, You've got to be kidding me. It's people who appear to be grown-ups who are using an actual, what you would think of as a hobby horse. It's like a pretend toy horse's head on a stick. The stick doesn't reach the ground, and they've got it between they've got it between their legs, and they're jumping over obstacles as though they were on a horse. Oh, that's the silliest thing. That's the silliest thing I've ever seen. Do you have to change your shoes to play that?
No,
not a sport. Southall, Manesh.
Nick, Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Yes, it's a little too late for that now. Let's put a cork on that one, shall we?
No worries, mate. I'm just thinking of a new job for our leader, Sir Keir Starmer.
Oh, yeah.
They need to become a stand-up comedian.
Stand-up comedian?
What do you think?
One of those unfunny stand-up comedians?
No, I think it's very, very, very funny.
Right.
Considering that we've got rid of the deterrent of people coming in on small boats.
No, we haven't.
But, well, we've got an icing on the cake now, haven't we? Because 5 out of 7 new of the 1.5 million homes they're going to build, they're going to give it to the immigrants. Welcome, come.
God, where did you read that, Manesh?
I didn't read it. I just made it up.
You just made it up. Right.
You
Okay.
can read
Good
it.
work. I can't stand it. No, I'm not having a repeat of yesterday's show. Alan in Reigate says, Happy New Year, Nick. As we live in the 6th largest economy in the world, we really need a financial transaction tax that would allow all the other tax to be cancelled. That's right. But a financial transaction tax would affect the super rich, and they won't stand for that because billionaires aren't made of money, you know. And texts, EOOF, EOOGH exclamation mark. How do you pronounce that? EOOF. All this waffle about the arcana of English. All over the world, people speak it well enough. No need to bother with tenses and plurals and gender. Wonderful, says Anne. What are you on about, Anne? David in Cleethorpes says, as the Christmas holidays have only just finished, imagine my surprise to notice that my local shop was selling Easter eggs. only to be amazed to see that they were also selling birthday cards, because it's not my birthday until October. Really. Not his birthday till October, and they're selling birthday cards already. Can you believe that? Holy moly, it's practically Jesus' birthday again. This text says, this is also a hangover from last night. I was a Labour voter, never again. Keir Starmer is nothing like Tony Blair. Starmer is evil. Oh, really? I thought that Tony Blair was supposed to be the evil one. He's got that billionaire evil haircut. Why do billionaires always have the same haircut? It's that scrape back look, like they're in a boat going at top speed and the wind has pushed their hair right back. And it's all really long and lank and greasy. They've all got the same blooming haircut. What's up with that? Except for you, Donny. You have your own special rug.
I don't wear a toupee.
This text says, is it me or have you just upset the whole nation tonight? Tell them to leave you alone. You're doing your best. Not the whole nation, just a tiny minority of those that shout the loudest. Darylin Ho says, hi Nick, happy 2025. That means we're now over a quarter of the way through the century. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's right. Hey, well done, everybody. We're in the future, says Daryl. And if that sounds scary, I'll cheer you up with a fun fact. 2025 equals 45 squared. The joy of maths. Yeah, 2025 is a very significant number, and I watched some mathematician explain why, because all sorts of cubes and square roots and stuff like that equal the number 25. I can't remember anything about it, so you're just going to have to trust me. You trust me, don't you?
No.
Oh, bad news. I mean, your phone is listening to you, so I've got that. But also, potential bad news about The Thing. The Thing might be back.
What?
China is experiencing a surge in infections of a respiratory virus leading to overcrowded hospitals, emergency measures and public concerns about an outbreak. Quick, get Boris Johnson back. He'll lead us through this. You remember Boris Johnson, don't you?
The great big greedy nincompoop.
That great big greedy nincompoop. The virus identified as the human... here we go. Metapneumovirus. Oh, that was easier than it looks. Write that down, and it's absolutely terrifying. Metapneumovirus, HMPV, not the record shop.
Rock and roll!
The HMPV has been spiking across northern Chinese provinces this winter, particularly among children. The outbreak comes 5 years after the world was first alerted to the emergence of a novel coronavirus in Wuhan in China. Love from the Wuhan clan, which later turned into a global pandemic, killing 7 million people. But at least some friends of the regime got fantastically rich. Bodge? Photos and videos of people wearing masks in hospital. Oh, no. Although I was wandering around the other day, the end of my nose was cold.
Stop whining.
And I thought, wouldn't that be nice to have, an end of the nose warming device? Because your nose sticks out an enormous amount from the front of your face. And it does get insufferably cold. So that was the only good thing about wearing masks. Well, apart from nobody could see who you were and everybody looked better with a mask on. Because you could only see them from the eyeballs up. You know, most of what's hideous about people's faces is from the eyeballs down. So if you cover that part, then everybody looks better. But it's the face-warming facility that I like the best. Of course, it's no good in the summer. That just was a complete pain. Photos and videos of people wearing masks in hospital in China emerged on social media platforms and local reports, and the scenes of an outbreak of HMPV, human metapneumovirus, were similar to the initial COVID outbreak.
Oh, no.
Health authorities are implementing emergency measures to monitor and manage the spread. They have emergency measures.
Emergency, everybody to get from street.
They said.
Emergency, everybody to get from street.
In Chinese. China's foreign spokesman out of the ministry said on Friday, respiratory infections tend to peak during the winter season. The diseases appear to be less severe and spread with a smaller scale compared to the previous year, she said. Are we comforted by that? Well, Human metapneumovirus, or HMPV, is a respiratory virus, a single-stranded RNA virus that spreads through contaminated surfaces or respiratory droplets. Symptoms include, but are not limited to, cough, fever, nasal congestion and fatigue. Yeah, I have all of those. All of those. It's got an incubation period of 3 to 6 days, and unlike COVID-19, there is no vaccine or specific antiviral treatment for HMPV. Treatment primarily involves managing symptoms, also known as letting the bodies pile high. Abbot.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
An Indian Foreign Ministry spokesmodel said, I can assure you that the Chinese government cares about the health of Chinese citizens and foreigners coming to China, adding that it is safe to travel to China. I'm definitely not going to China. Not now, not ever, never. I've got Brexit news. It's very, very good news, assuming that you don't believe in facts. And the rather startling case of your phone listening to you, which conspiracy theorists have been concerned about for a good long while. And it come to find out that they've been concerned with good reason. So that and more on the Nick Abbot show on LBC, which is happening right now in front of your face. Your beautiful face.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Who do you think you're talking to?
I shall shortly be talking to a person in Yorkshire, but first let me read a couple of messages, because I've got to get through last night's before tonight. How many pages I've got? Scrolling. Oh, that's just ridiculous. There's just too many. Nobody speaks with their mouth anymore. Everybody's just waggling their thumbs over their device, which is listening to you, by the way. I'll get to that in a minute. This text says, Hi, Nick. Winter fuel payment equates to £3.84 per week. Most pensioners don't need it. It's boring now. I'm a pensioner on under 16,000 an annum, and I'm managing. Yeah, well, it is boring now, for crying out loud. The reason that pensioners need winter fuel allowance in the first place is that we pay them so dismally badly. Now, we could pay them more, but then that would mean that us people what are working would have to pay more tax. Do you want to pay more tax?
No.
Right, well, shut up about it then. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Nick, I'll talk to you, mate.
Yes.
Yeah, Elon Musk's been in the news a bit this week, and John Oliver's last show of 24 with a full hour on Musk.
Oh, is it? I missed that.
It's worth watching because he goes like that. All the stupid quotes over the last 20 years. It's quite amazing to watch.
For a genius, he's not very smart.
No, I think some of the stuff he's come out with, and you forget it. But when you put it in a compilation and you look at it, you think, this guy's useless. Yeah. But anyway, bye. That leads us on to the fact that I got a couple of hours road test and a track test of a Tesla this last week.
A Tesla?
Warning.
And you're still alive. That's excellent news, Mike.
It is, but I'll tell you the weirdest thing first, so I don't forget it. A Tesla car can blow raspberry.
Wait a second. What? A Tesla car can do a what now?
It can blow raspberry, a fart noise.
Why?
And this is a joke, because when you're parked up and somebody comes along the pavement, bends down to pet their dog or tie their shoelace, you can push this button, which was demonstrated to me, and the car blows a raspberry, and everybody looks at the bloke bent over and laughs at them. That is the most pathetic, childish thing I have ever heard in my life. People playing sound effects. How ridiculous. It absolutely stunned me, and the guy who was co-piloting it with me, demonstrating it, was amused by this, and I said, you mean somebody spent hours of the time designing this into this car? But going on to the car itself, It was interesting. The seats were absolutely fantastic, and you could micro-adjust them to get it exactly where you wanted them. I've only ever been in one once, and it was somebody was driving it as a cab, and the only positive thing I thought about it was, wow, these are really good seats. Yeah, it was excellent. As regards performance, if you put it in the insane mode, because you've sort of got economy. economy, normal and insane.
Yes.
I'm not joking. It was a quick vehicle. It was brilliant to drive in that respect.
Yes.
A bit. It alarmed you a little bit in that there was no wind noise because it's double glazed.
Is it?
Yeah, no engine noise, obviously, just a bit of road noise. So you put your foot down and you were doing stupid speed, but it was dead silent, and you didn't realise quite how fast you were going till you got used to it.
What you don't realise inside the car is how much noise it makes outside, because a lot of the noise of a car is not the engine at all, it's the tyres on the road.
Yeah, the road noise. On a bumpy road, the road noise was really bad in the car, but on a smooth road, it was nearly silent. But, I mean, it would do like 40 to 70 in 2 seconds, which is really handy for overtaking because you just literally dab your foot boing and you're past it.
But see, I've never driven an electric car. So is there... because if you drive like a petrol car, it accelerates smoothly, but... What I've heard of an electric car is that it's all at once, boom, and then it's like you're shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, it's fierce. I mean, it's fierce.
But that doesn't sound comfortable to me.
You get used to it. And then the other interesting thing is that you hardly ever need to brake unless you're really pushing it, because it catches the energy. When you take your foot off the throttle, the car brakes.
Right.
It doesn't cruise like a normal car would. So if you deck it and take your foot off, it will throw you forwards because the braking, as it regains the energy back into the battery. So it's a different driving technique. But once you get the hang of it, and then the bloke who was showing me it said, "You're braking with your left foot." And I said, "Oh, Christ, I've gone back into karting mode, go-karting, because then you brake with your left foot and accelerate with your right." And I instinctively went back into normal go-karting mode.
Right.
And he said, "You can't brake with your left foot if you're supposed to brake with your right foot." And I said, "No, it's go-karting. If you've driven go-karts, you know what you mean."
So you're going to get one?
No, but if I was doing 30-40 miles, no, I do a lot of off-road stuff and they don't do an off-road one. And but if I was doing 30,000-40,000 like I used to do commercially, and my company said, "This is your company car," I wouldn't be disappointed.
Right. So you get it if it was free. That's not a ringing endorsement, really. And I mentioned that you came back alive because Tesla has been named the deadliest car brand after an analysis of vehicle fatality rates determined that the brand had the highest number of fatal crashes per mile.
Well, I'll tell you what, something I forgot to mention. It's got all sorts of driver aids, like it won't let you move out of your lane.
What?
It tries. You can force the steering wheel to move lane. And they showed me that, and he said, "No, keep pulling on the wheel, it'll go." And eventually, when you put enough force on, it would change lane.
Oh, I wouldn't like that. So the car is telling you that you don't want to do what you want to do. I wouldn't like that.
But when you switched all that stuff off, like this guy was operating the touchscreen while I was driving, and I said, "Switch the lot off. Now, everything off." And when you switched everything off, it was great.
Now, what about the touchscreen thing? Because the thing with buttons is you know where they are. Whereas with a touchscreen, you've got to take your eyes off the road, and then you're into menus and then sub-menus, and I don't know what is on there. I think everything is on there, isn't it? You've got no switches on the car at all. See, if I wanted to turn the heating up, or if I wanted to change the station, or I wanted to put the rear window heater on, I wouldn't really have to look very much because I know where it is. But if everything's on a screen, that doesn't seem like a great step forward in road safety.
No, in that aspect of it, I didn't like. But if you set it up before you set off and left it was sort of okay.
Yeah, but things happen, though, don't they, when you're on the road? You know, your window's messed up and, something comes on the stereo that you don't like. You know, anything could happen.
No, I quite agree. And then it had got, I've forgotten how many cameras that it had got on it, like 16. Right. And if you put it into reverse, all of a sudden, the cameras come up on the screen. They didn't like you getting near stuff either. If you approached a parked car...
Warning!
Yes. If you approached a parked car and it thought you were getting a bit near before you pulled out to overtake, it would shout at you. It would shout a warning at you. which is a bit unnerving. In
unnerving, yeah.
But its actual handling, it was okay.
Right. Is that the first electric car you've driven?
Drove one of the silly little Renault ones about 10 years ago. One of those tiny little things, like a little trike type thing.
Yeah, well, things have moved on since then, haven't they? Yeah.
It was great. I mean, in all other respects, it was... it was okay.
Right, but the thing is now, if you buy a Tesla, if you drive around in a Tesla, then you might as well drive around in a MAGA hat.
And getting in and out's quite good, because the seat, you've got the driving position. When you open the door, the seat lifts you up to make it easier to get out.
Huh.
And moves back so that you're in an ideal position to get out. And then when you get back in, it just automatically puts you back in the driving position, which is all very clever.
I like the sound of that. But I have to refer back to my driving around in a MAGA hat issue. I just wouldn't want to be associated with that brand because, you just don't know what he's going to say next. I mean, do you want to be associated with a neo-Nazi party in Germany? Not really, no.
No, I don't. Hey, have you seen that Bannon and Musk have fallen out? Because Bannon's old MAGA.
Yeah, that's right. He's classic. Yeah, he's classic Coke to Musk's sugar-free. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, all right. Okay, good work. Thanks a lot, Mike. Yeah, they're all falling out with each other. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, the dummies are punching each other in the face. They haven't even started yet. It's going to be an absolute clown show. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Yeah, Tesla was named the deadliest car brand after an analysis of vehicle fatality rates determined that the brand had the highest number of fatal crashes per mile. The automotive search engine iSeeCars.com released an analysis of the most dangerous cars on the road, which was determined using NHTSA Fatality Analysis Reporting System, and then enlisted data from the iSeeCars website in order to account for miles travelled. Are you with me so far?
No.
Tesla's fatality rate stands at about 5.6 fatal accidents per billion miles travelled, according to the study. That's the number. That's the worst. The brand is closely followed by Kia, a car brand with 5.5 fatal accidents per billion miles. Kia is followed by Buick, and then Dodge, and then Hyundai. Researchers did not attribute the fatality rates to the vehicles sold by each brand in and of themselves, but more to consumer behaviour and how customers of each brand operate on the road. A focused, alert driver travelling at legal or prudent speed without being under the influence of drugs or alcohol is the most likely to arrive safely regardless of the vehicle they're driving, said the iSeeCars executive analyst. Most of the vehicles received excellent safety ratings, performing well in crash tests, so it's not a vehicle design issue. It's the people inside them. Huh. So, I would, for me personally, I would avoid buying one and being in the vicinity of someone being driven by somebody else. This text says, no. It starts no, as though we're having a conversation. No, Nick, Starmer has choices and has ruled them out. No customs union, no single market, no return to the EU in Starmer's lifetime. He has options, but is too scared to use them. Yeah, well, I agree with you there. He should revisit all of those things and probably will. Because the figures are in about Brexit, and, like I've said before, everything is great about Brexit, apart from if you believe in facts. This says, Nick, I haven't heard you stick up for young people previously. Thank you. He says, or she, sexist. While I feel for OAPs, it says, on the means test borderline, there are also many people in their 20s I know going cold this winter, while many OAPs previously spent winter fuel Christmas payments on gifts and golf memberships and even the Christmas holiday booze fund. Yeah, that's right. It's not just OAPs who are shivering when it gets cold. In fact, it's probably not OAPs specifically. I would imagine it's more likely to be younger people who do not have the resources. They'll be living in mouldy, drafty flats, probably, in some cases, rented from members of the royal family. That story came and went pretty quick, didn't it? Somebody opened that book just a bit and then slammed it shut again. Curious. I bet people's phones were ringing off the hook. Higher-ups at, the TV station that came up with that report. Oh, they said. And it disappeared. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Shut up.
Right, so what we doing?
Given we're doing a radio show, let me just mention briefly that we are on our 300th episode, me and Carol.
Oh, right, yeah.
Our 300th episode is dropping on Monday. It's a double-length episode, and I do think that you will find it chucklesome. Ask for it on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? I think you'll love it. This text says, what are you talking about? Just put yourself in the mind of people that write that kind of thing, because I get it a lot. People text in, and keep in mind that this is from yesterday. People text in as though they're having a conversation with me. They hear me say something stupid on the radio, and then they wish to correct me. And so they text in as though we're chatting, but they're writing. And then they send it, and then hours, if not days, go by before I actually read it out. So I have no idea what you're talking about by saying, what are you talking about? So I'm just going to skip over that one and pretend it didn't happen. I can't hear you. You may be shouting at the radio right now, but I am not aware of any sound that you're making. Although your phone is. I'll come to that in a minute. Well, this is a very, very, very long one. This is like practically a book somebody sent me, so I'll just skip over that one as well. Stuart in the Dordogne texts, I've moved to French France. The UK is light years behind France. What a country, says Stuart, who's in a different time zone entirely. Light years away he is. Yeah, well, I would imagine that in French France, huge tracts of it don't fall over and lose their electricity because of a light dusting of snow. That's here. And it's every blooming year. As though we're surprised when winter comes around. Somebody should get the authorities a calendar. 0345 6060 973. Cumbran, Philip.
Hello, how are you? Okay?
Good, thanks, yes. What's the weather like outside?
It's snowing here, yes, since
Is
about
it?
5 o'clock, yes.
And what is it, deep and crisp and even?
It's not deep and crisp and even. It's covering the paths and covering the cars.
Right.
Mentioning cars, before I get on to what I want to talk about, I would think you would like the hat that I've got. It's a mega hat. And not a MAGA hat, it's a mega hat.
Mega.
It's blue, and it says, Make Europe Great Again.
Right. Who's provided you with that hat?
I got it via the website off the New European paper.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm, from previous calls, I'm a very strong supporter of Europe.
I did not know that, Philip. I never listened to this show.
Yeah, well, anyway, so I've got that hat, so there we are. Anyway, what I want to talk about is...
hang on, before you get to what you want to talk about, can we talk about something else?
Yeah, right.
What does that mean, make Europe great again?
Well, the new European paper was relaunched after Brexit. The original European paper, going back in the 90s, that folded up, and this was regurgitated, and it's still going, but it's obviously to support Europe, support all things Europe, and it's a brilliant paper.
But what does that mean, make Europe great again?
Well, I'm only anticipating. I mean, you know what Trump is saying, but Europe does need to become great. I mean,
it is great. Name me a greater continent. I double dare you. Go on.
Okay, well, okay, fair enough. It is great. It should be greater because it should be united. And we should be back in it where we should never have left, you know.
Well, we should never have left. That was one of the stupidest things that any country has ever done. It was right up there with selling off all of our water. How's that going, by the way?
Fabulous.
I heard that lady on last night, and I was hoping I was going to come on after her. She was on about Finland, if I remember.
Finland.
And she said we ought to be independent, and the Finnish people, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to say, well, I mean, the Finnish people are supposed to be fairly happy, if that's correct. I don't know.
They are.
But I thought, well, they are happy because they haven't left the EU. They're still in it.
Well, the reason that they're happy and the reason that the Scandi countries are happy is because they pay a decent amount of tax, and the government uses that tax for the benefit of the people. It doesn't. The government doesn't think, how can I take as much money that is coming in as possible and give it to myself and my friends? They don't think that. They provide a safety net for their people so that they don't feel that if something bad happens to them, they are just, a couple of pieces of bad luck away from sleeping in a doorway, which is what you get here and in America. And that's why we aren't very happy people, because we don't feel comfortable and safe.
Can I get on to this book? I went to the Cheltenham Book Festival many years ago, and I went into a second-hand bookshop, and I found this book.
Yes.
And it was called The 51st State.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a political fiction. Basically, it was about a government that was divided. Half the government wanted to stay in Europe. The other half wanted to become the 51st state of America. That's what happened. Very interesting fiction, but as George Orwell's 1984 has come to pass in a different sort of way, I fear that book could come to pass by accident.
Yeah. We're going to become the 51st state of America. No.
By accident. No, I'm serious. I mean...
we're going to slip on something on the pavement and accidentally fall into it.
I mean, a previous caller said that when you mention politics, British people or whatever, they blank off. But I'm being serious. I mean, we know what Trump and Musk and all that lot of like. Yeah. But the point is, Farage and all, this could happen by accident. Right, if we don't get back into Europe, I think America could, by default, take us over. I hope not.
Well, what we have learned is that Donald Trump is not a reasonable or reliable person. Even his fans, I mean, especially, actually, his fans say that, he doesn't mean what he says, and he'll say one thing and then he'll do another, and, that's just Donny, and he'll make these claims, and he'll say he wants to take the Panama Canal away, and he wants to annex China, and Canada and Mexico and all of these things. He doesn't really mean it, but that's the point. I mean, that's why they like him, I guess. One of the reasons, because he is he doesn't mean what he says. You just never know what he's going to do, and that's a terrible quality in somebody that you want as an ally. Abysmal. Who would have a friend that is totally unreliable, who says that they'll meet you at 6 o'clock for dinner in a restaurant and then doesn't show up? Oh, I didn't mean it. I just said that. Nobody. And particularly if the future health, wealth and happiness of an entire country's worth of people is involved. You can't trust him. So let's not ally ourselves or, like other people are doing, crawl across the carpet to kiss his shoes. Let's keep him at an arm's length distance. I mean, you don't want to upset him because he's a baby with a machine gun, like I said yesterday. I mean, he's a totally unhinged, whining infant. So don't upset him because he's got this huge weapon, which is the entirety of America, that he will use without compunction against anybody that is mean to him, or, says that he's orange, or says that he's wearing like a small dead rat on the top of his head.
I don't wear a toupee.
So, let's not upset him. No sudden moves. But we have to ally ourselves with more reasonable people. Of course we do. And that's Europe, because it's right next door.
Do you think, an earlier caller said, Starmer, they're all keeping, even my own party, the Liberal Democrats, are keeping very quiet about Europe, the single market, the custom, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But do you think that eventually we will go back in? I think we should go back in officially, not sort of just cozy up. We should be in there, lots of. But what do you think?
Well, I think that ship has sailed for a while, but there's no reason why we can't do what business needs us to do, and all individuals need us to do, is to get closer with our biggest trading partner. It's absolutely insane that we aren't doing that. Got to go, Philip. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. I mean, I could go on about it because there was some statistics that just came out. It's been 5 years since Brexit got done. Britain's voted to leave the European Union by 52 to 48, which was a very, very tight margin. And if it had gone the other way, then Nigel Farage wanted a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum.
We should have a second referendum if it was 52 to 48, said Nigel Farage, if you remember. It's just that he didn't think it was going to be 52 for him and 48 saying we should stay. He thought it was going to be 52 to 48 the other way around, in which case...
We should have a second referendum.
He wanted a second referendum. So Brexit has promised a new age of British sovereignty, a crackdown on migration, £350 million a week that would be diverted from the EU back into the NHS. Did any of that happen?
No.
No. The cost of Brexit still being determined, but the government watchdog estimates that the economy will take a 15% hit to trade in the long term, while experts suggest that the UK has suffered £100 billion in lost output each year. Now, that figure is disputed. I'll come to that in a sec. Since Britain left the EU, migration has been at the highest level since records began. The one thing that everybody who voted out wanted, and don't tell me that you didn't, you did, has been the worst failure of all, migration. 6 in 10 Britons think that Brexit has gone fairly or very badly. 6 in 10. 12% think it's gone well. The rest said they didn't know. And that should have been their answer at the referendum in the first place. I don't know, because we didn't. A UK trade expert said the UK has now significant trade barriers to its neighbours. It's something we'll have to live with. We're not allowed to forget it. There will always be issues. A Brexit optimist economist called Julian Jessup, a fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, one of them think tanks, warning, admitted that Brexit had made it harder or impossible for small businesses to adjust. He said the UK's departure from the EU has undoubtedly had some negative effects on the economy, notably through reductions in trade, shortfalls in business investment and disruption to labour markets. Now, that was in The Independent. In a piece that in Brexit-tastic, the Daily Telegraph, that same economist questioned some of these figures, somewhat unconvincingly to my eye. He says, what about the war in Ukraine and what about the pandemic? And I do believe that both of those things affected everybody, not just Brexit Britain. And then he repeats the numbers, that 100 million a year in lost output, and says that they are not that reliable. And then he repeats them and says that there is one that is more reliable than others, which have the exact same figures, and then goes on to doubt them. But even in that, he admits that we've grown by 1% less than our competitors. And as our GDP is about £2.6 trillion a year, 1% of that is 26 billion. There's your black hole right there. Every year. 26 billion. But it's not just about the money. Former Deputy Prime Minister Lord Heseltine said that nearly 5 years on, Brexit's been a historic disaster. It's destroyed Britain's leadership in Europe, just at the time when there was a critical need for it. It's closed off opportunities for the younger generation to share in the benefits of Europe, and it's denied Britain's industrial base access to the research and policies of Europe. Our economy is much worse because of it, and there's no reputable authority that denies it, said Lord Heseltine. He said, I think the British people know that they were deceived and the deceit is measured in reduced living standards. Well, ask yourself, are you better off now than you were 5 years ago? Are things cheaper? Is the NHS all that it could be? Are you luxuriating in all that sovereignty? Are there fewer foreigners around your way? And I would assume that the answer to all of that is...
No.
Absolutely everything they promised was a lie. They knew they were lying. We Remainers told Brexiters that they were lying, and they believed them anyway, and would probably vote for the lying liars right now if they could. They're all in like Donald Trump's cult fans. It's as though some people actually want to be lied to. It's as though they enjoy it. And it wouldn't be so sad if the people that were being hoodwinked weren't so obviously being taken advantage of. Their poverty, their lack of hope, the dismal prospects make them easy targets. That's why Farage picked on Clacton, a dismal area of grinding poverty, ill health, chronic unemployment. Not his sort of people. Not the type he hangs out with, but easily manipulated. I mean, the man he cringingly sticks to, like a fanboy, tells it to Americans to their faces.
I love the poorly educated.
He says to poorly educated people who cheer and whoop like he's paying them a compliment. Trump won in the areas of poor and low intelligence. The middle and the south, not the coasts. He won, ironically, in the states that make the most in state benefits, or take the most, rather, in state benefits, because they've achieved the least. Republican states are the poorest. They stayed poor, and they stayed put. They're in receipt of benefits that the richer Democrat voters on the coasts pay for. I mean, check it out if you don't believe me. And I say it's ironic because Trump's signature policy is to take away the benefits that his very fans rely on, to give tax cuts to the rich people who live on the coasts. I mean, if it wasn't so sad, it'd be comical. Hey, wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. But, you know, what's the point? I mean, I can go down state by state with the benefits thing. This is, I haven't got all of the states because it would take too long, but from the top, the percentage of total revenue per state that comes from the government. Yeah, in other words, the ones that are addicted to, the state help, which is what Donald Trump is against. Donald Trump and all the billionaires that are behind him, they want to cut state benefits in order to give tax cuts to the rich, themselves, in other words, because, you know, being a billionaire is apparently not enough money. That's absolutely incredible. From the top, Montana, Republican. Then, these are percentage of total revenue from the federal government per state. Montana, Republican. New Mexico, Republican. Kentucky, Republican. Louisiana, Republican. Alaska, Republican. Wyoming, Republican. Arizona, Republican. West Virginia, Republican. Alabama, Republican. North Dakota, Republican. Delaware, oh, we got one. Democrat. All the way down the list, there's one. Followed by Mississippi, Republican, and Indiana, Republican. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so, I told you so, I told you so.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is absolute tosh.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that, Nige. Let's have tooting.
Oh, hi, good evening, Nick.
Yes, Joan.
Yeah, so I've got, it's not depressing, but it's a strange experience I had helping out a relative over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, having to go to, I wanted to be there with this relative because they were being taken to A&E. Yeah. And, you hear about all the problems with A&E, accident and emergency, and I was expecting a 12-hour... You know, they say there was a lot in the news before this quademic, isn't it? Quademic, and yes. Yeah, the winter flu viruses and stuff affecting things. Well, that was was out of my mind. I just had to be there to support this relative, and it involved it involved me being taken down to where they lived before they took her to the hospital. But the police, I was taken in a police car. I've never been in a police car while the siren's going, and it was like he was a racing driver going down the street, And I only realised after a while. I said, I didn't realise that siren was of the car that I was being transported.
Right. When they got the siren on, can you hear it really loudly inside the car?
No,
you can't.
It was a young policeman. I thought he's like a racing driver. He has to speak to. He's constantly in contact. He has to be.
Why did he put the lights on if he was just taking you to hospital when there was nothing wrong with you?
He wasn't taking me to hospital. He was taking me to racing me to get down to where she lived.
Well, then I redouble my question. Why did he have his lights on and was speeding like he was?
It was dark.
Trying to think of a modern day motor racing driver, but all I'm coming up with is Sterling Moss.
No, I mean, that was my experience. I was so shocked that I was in a car with him having the sirens on.
Well, it must have been terrifying.
No, I just, it didn't sound like it was coming from the
what was
car.
the emergency, though?
The emergency was a disabled relative who had. Well, I actually, because I couldn't make contact with them, and I started to worry whether they had had an accident. So the police got involved in it as well as the ambulance.
Right? Did they read you your rights?
No, but it was weird. It was weird, Nick. I mean, the thing is, she didn't. Anyway, I won't go into all that detail about it. But getting to the hospital, we were left in a corridor in the accident and emergency.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It was a long, narrow corridor, and you know what? I was thinking. I thought it would be. I thought it would be, 12 hours. I was expecting a 12 hours at most, So that was the NHS target is really normally a 4-hour target, so that the person is seen, admitted, discharged, and transferred, or whatever they decide what they're going to do with them. Yeah. But it went on for 48 hours.
48 hours? I definitely thought you were going to tell me you were seen instantly, and you've never been so pleased with the service. 48 hours?
What? 2 days without sleep, without sleep, Nick, and I was so disoriented by the time I was. What the good thing is that she was admitted finally into a ward, a lovely ward, and got the care that I wanted to see her getting. Before I left, and I wanted to make sure she would be all right. Right. But after 48 hours, she was on a bed,
in the corridor.
All of them were. The corridor was filling up with people with terrible chest stuff and all kinds of things. And but a lot of them were there for the 48 hours. And it was so shocking, Nick. It was awful.
It's like a third world country. Yeah. Thanks a lot, the Conservative Party, who have delivered this to us.
Thank you.
We used to have the world's top-rated health service. Now, there's people in. Think of comical third world country that wouldn't upset too many people. Can't think of any right now. But even Narnia are looking at us with pity.
But you know what, Nick? What was so shocking was that, as I say, I actually tried to see if I could lay on one of the beds that was empty, that were waiting patients. They said no. Right. And I was sitting on a small chair with no cushions, no nothing.
Oh, my God.
But I was just so happy that my relative, it's a sister, actually, the older sister, was put into a fantastic ward. They were all very caring. Yeah. And you suddenly realise all these NHS staff, the doctors and everyone there, rushing around back and forth down this corridor. They must have walked more than 20 miles in an evening shift, yet they still kept it up. I mean, they're admirable. I have to give it to them.
Of course, yes. The staff are tremendous, but let's not get carried away. That is what they are there to do. I mean, people who go into hospital, they're overly pleased when they get treatment, but that's what the hospitals and the doctors and the nurses are there for.
Yeah, but you know what, Nick? I've never been awake for 2 days in a row. I've never not had sleep for 2 days. And when I did eventually get to sleep, I was terribly disorientated. That when I woke up, because I got a call and I didn't know what time of day it was, anything. I thought do you know what I mean? It was so disorienting. And then the back of my thighs was so sore from sitting on a chair. No cushions, nothing.
God, I can't believe you didn't go home. Why didn't you just go home?
How could I leave her there? I wanted to make sure she got attention because she was very disoriented.
Well,
she was very confused. She had been left in such a state, and I didn't know, to tell you the truth, whether she had passed away, because I couldn't make contact with her. Someone had jammed her phone. It was a bit of a crisis situation.
And this isn't in the middle of nowhere. This is in London.
This is in the Croydon area where.
Right.
But this is But the thing is, I was just so happy to see her. I couldn't leave till I knew she was in the ward. Well, I couldn't leave because it was so early in the morning, and I made sure. You know what I mean? It's just a peace of mind knowing she did eventually get seen and was admitted to the hospital.
Well, let's hope that in as short a time as is possible, and it's going to take a while because we don't have the staff, apart from anything else. We don't have the staff, and we don't have the beds, and we don't have the consultants or the nurses or the machines that go bing or any of that stuff. So it's going to take a while, but there's a long journey is started with just one step. I'm sorry to hear about your trauma there, Jan, but thanks for passing that on, and I'm glad that it worked out well in the end. I'm feeling disoriented just thinking about it. Thanks for that.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
Very sick and dangerous man. This text says, say what you like, the Tories didn't exactly have it easy when they were in 2012. What does that mean? Say what you like, the Tories didn't exactly have it easy when they were in 2012. What does that mean? What, when Diddy David Cameron was in?
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, still not missing you, Dave, in case you were wondering. But we know where to find you. If we do, you'll be in the shed where they keep the tools. This says, amazing the apologists for Bodger are all forgetting his phrase that was often applied to his myriad failures. Leave him alone. He's doing his best. Yeah, that's the beauty of his act. You know, that, blah, who, me? Blah, that act. That's why he ruffles his hair like that, so he comes across as an innocent and inoffensive schoolboy. You know, unthreatening. Whereas that's not who he is at all. But it's a good act. Unless you're, for a while. But once you're subjected to it for a good long while, you just can't stand it anymore. Cornwall. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Yes, good, thanks. What's the weather like there?
Well, it's very, very cold. I mean, it's cold for Cornwall, obviously. But my daughter, who's up near Glasgow, she's obviously left here. She's up there. She said, you don't know what it is to be somewhere cold, she said, until you've lived up here for a bit.
Yeah. Well, never mind about Glasgow. Glasgow's not particularly cold. It's Edinburgh that's cold.
No, but for her, relatively speaking, she's feeling it up there a little bit,
Well, I can tell you what it's like right now. It's misty, and tomorrow will be a gentle breeze. 2 degrees the high. Wow, the high, 2 degrees. And it'll be a mixture of sort of snow and rain, sort of like a sleety, awful.
Well, she's a bit disappointed that she's not going to get her first snow this time around.
Right.
But, no, so that, It's I mean, by our standards, it is that the house is cold. You can't get warm here. You've got layers on all the rest of it.
I tell you what, I'll say this again, and this is very important. Take this on board. If you are finding it difficult to heat your rooms, don't heat the room, heat yourself. Buy yourself a heated throw, not a blanket, because that's the thing that lays flat in the bed, and I don't think you can move it around you. You can't sort of bend it. You need a heated throw, which you can just put on yourself, get the biggest one you can afford, and it puts the heat right on you. I'm telling you, it's a life-changing device.
wrap up in. Well, yeah, that's maybe one of my next purchases because you've been on about these for some while, haven't you? So yeah, no. But the reason I've called in is I've loved calling you and having a yarn with you for years now. God, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And
tell me about it.
It's been fun. It's been fun, but I'm finding it hard to ring you.
Yes.
Knowing that it's going to be easy, just have a chat, have a laugh, move on. And I'm finding that hard, Nick, and we haven't got, as you've been saying earlier, we haven't even got to Trump through the door of the White House yet. But it could be that this time around, if Musk is around, he might keep Trump quiet. So that might be a good thing.
Yeah, that's going to happen. Keep Trump quiet? What do you mean?
Well, either that will happen or Musk will be gone because neither of the scenarios can be true. You can't have Trump on top form, I don't think, and Musk quiet because I think Musk will be capable of that. Look what he is.
Yeah, the thing with the like emotional attachment with them, that it's not about liking each other. Elon Musk wants the power and the money because apparently being the richest man in the world isn't enough. Imagine that. And Donald Trump just wants to be wheeled out to get praised every now and again, and then wants to get on with playing with cheating at golf. But the reason why Donald Trump is unlikely to chuck Elon Musk out like he would anybody else is that Elon Musk keeps giving him money. And so they're going to be both sticking around for the long haul and hating each other every second, I would imagine.
You say that, right, and this isn't the reason I rung in. I'll come to that in a second, and I'll be brief on that, right? I think that this time around is different from the last time because Trump is not looking forward to another term. I don't think, unless for the reasons that you said come true, that he does turn out to be a bit of a dictator, and he won't go. But
what do you mean turn out to be? He tried to take over the last time he was in. He ain't going at the end of these 4 years. I think at the least he's going to try and hand it down to either one of his sons, Uday or Kusei.
But they'll be up against the proper opponents, I think, the next time round. Not that Harris wasn't a proper opponent, but they'll have
I'm not saying that there's going to be another election. I'm saying that he's going to hand power over.
No, all right. Well, look, and the other thing is, he made more money last time he was in power than he ever has done before. So I think the next 4 years he will make a pile through his business.
Huge, absolutely massive, which makes it all the more embarrassing that he's selling all of that plastic made in China tat on his website. I mean, God, that's cringe making.
It is. But the reason I rang in, Nick, was this. There's an article that I started reading earlier, and I'm looking at it, I'm reading, and I thought, I've got to ring Nick now just to run this by him, see what he thinks. And it's that, and it's a serious article, and it's on Apple News. Have a look. And it turned my stomach. And it went something like, independent schools are going to have to sell playing fields.
Oh, please! The whining from those people. Yeah. Fees from private schools went up 55% above inflation over the last 10 years. No one who is currently whining about a 20% increase made a peep about that. They just found the money and kept sending their kids to those schools.
The reason it had special pertinence with me was, being a former school teacher, I worked in schools where all of a sudden our playing fields became smaller and we had building sites on bits of land that used to belong to us, the school.
Right.
And it was happening. I worked in several schools at the start of my career, and I've done supply teaching.
State schools.
And all the rest of it.
Yeah, not private schools.
The land was sold off, Nick, in virtually every single school in the country.
That's right.
And not a mention of it from the Tory government.
No, because those are the people that were doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And not a word from middle-class parents with kids in private schools.
Right.
They
Couldn't
were
care
laughing
less.
all over.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And Nick, that's why I'm going to run that by. Have a look at it.
Right. I
It's
most
sickening.
certainly will do nothing of the sort because that smacks of homework, Malcolm. But thanks for the offer. I thought that was building up to a fight. I really did. I thought that he was praising his forthcoming arguments and preparing me for to get biffed in the face, metaphorically speaking. But it didn't happen. It seemed like he was agreeing with me. That's not what I was expecting from that at all. I was, girding my loins.
Disgusting.
Sorry about that. But I was. What does that mean, by the way? Don't tell me. And definitely...
Warning!
Don't put that in your Google search engine. Other search engines are available, but nobody ever uses them. Oh, by the way, your phone is listening to you. Have I mentioned that yet? I'll come to that in a minute. Hey, Neil Young cancelled his appearance at Woke Glastonbury due to wokeness and corporateness, which is an odd combination. He was reported to be concerned that the event was both woke and corporate. I mean, this was first reported early yesterday. And I glanced at the comment section online so that you didn't have to. And it was all, go woke, go broke, they said. Pretty much every comment was that. Writers hugging themselves. They were so delighted because, if it rhymes, it's right.
Correct.
Take that, woke snowflakes. A rhyme. Go woke, go broke, they all said. But then, a few hours later, breaking news. Neil Young will play Glastonbury after all. It was just a mistake. Glad to be doing it. Can't wait to get on stage. Neil Young confirmed that he will headline this year's Glastonbury Festival, clarifying on his blog that he had received an error in information that had initially prompted him to pull out. Happily, the festival is now back on our itinerary. I look forward to playing. Hope to see you there, he said. He did not explain what the error was. I don't know either. I mean, maybe he was briefly addled. Neil Young joins Rod Stewart and Nile Rodgers, all of whom will have to play extra loud so their aged fans will be able to hear them. Neil Young, Rod Stewart and Nile Rodgers. Good grief, that's about 300 years between them. Anyone under the age of 60 won't be able to hear a thing because those oldsters will be telling them that Glastonbury is not as good as it used to be in the 1980s when you could park your car next to your tent in the same field as the pyramid stage, as I believe I have explained at length before. Oh, it's not as good as it used to be. Going on and on and on about it, probably.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
On Tuesday, Neil Young posted on his site the Neil Young archives that he was pulling out at the festival. Says, one of my all-time favourite outdoor gigs because of his perception that Glastonbury was under corporate control. Owing to its partnership with the BBC. Somebody said, oh, you know what the C stands for? and he said, oh, well, that's it then. I'm out. I mean, the broadcaster's partnered with the festival since 1997, since which I've not been. Not because of that, but, because it used to be better in the old days, like that. I mean, one thing they could do to make it better for artists is stop interviewing the artists the moment they come off stage and asking them stupid questions like, have you ever played to a crowd that big? Was that the best gig of your life? Isn't it just like heaven right here in Somerset? Stupid questions like that. Because if they're the headliner, the artist will have always played to huge crowds. Every festival on earth has crowds that big. It might not have been their favourite. And playing to people who didn't even know they were going to be on the bill when they bought the tickets is not some artist's idea of heaven. Just saying.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
What's he got to be depressed about?
Yeah, nothing so far. I mean, it's not been a brilliant year so far, but it's not been absolutely terrible. Let's see if we can continue in this vein. Wouldn't it be marvellous if it didn't get worse than this, eh? Oldbury, hello, Ranjit.
Hi, Nick. You all right, mate?
Yes, good, thanks.
Happy to you and everybody else.
Yeah, too late for that now. We're going to draw a line on that now.
First time I've spoken to you, and I want to wish my mum a happy birthday. She was 80 years old.
Oh, happy birthday. Yes, give her the long version. Hang on. There you go.
All right, Nick. Yeah, let's get started. Right, I'm going to sound angry, but I'm not.
Let's get ready to rumble. Go on.
No, Rachel. You know when people who started off with nothing, right, suddenly are okay, and they forget where they come from, and really slag off those kind of people. It really annoys me, when they slag off the people from their past, yeah?
Oh.
Okay? Because, like these jokes when I was a kid, yeah? I used to hear these jokes, why was Jesus born in a stable? Because all the peas, like they used to refer to me.
Right. We don't do jokes.
No, not a joke.
What's your point, though?
Right, people used to be racist towards me, yeah? Okay. So when now a brown or a black person be's racist towards the boat people or whatever, all the immigrants, right, it really annoys me. That's why I get that out of the way, right?
Right.
And people shouldn't do that, right?
Okay.
So suddenly, you've been working in a factory and you've been earning £20,000 a year and you win the lottery. Mate, you're still a £20,000 a year worker. You're not a multi-millionaire. You might be in money, but
right, no, it's not the lottery thing. I think that if I can perhaps interject, that what you might be trying to say is that when people came from nothing and they got lucky and they made a fortune, they then criticised those that did not get lucky and make a fortune for their lack of industry, effort, intelligence, their lack of good choices, and etc. and so on. And they assume that their good fortune is because of their own innate genius and effort and hard work, and has nothing to do with luck.
Yeah, it annoys me, that does, right? And, going to what Elon Musk has been interviewing in this country, yeah?
Right.
Okay? And Nigel Farage, I was watching the news the other day, and they brought in Tommy Robinson. He says, I don't want him to join our party. He never wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
You watch, that's going to be one massive U-turn for Farage, yeah? And I'd love to interview him when I can say to him, Mr. Farage.
Well, yeah, okay, but I think if you look at the Venn diagram of Farage fans and those of Tommy Robinson, I think that the intersection is quite great. So in rejecting the prospect of Tommy Robinson joining Reform, I think Farage is going to also be upsetting a lot of his own fans who won't know which way to turn. It's like it'd be like one of those videos of two people, like a husband and a wife, who've got a dog, and they sit the dog down, and then the husband and wife run off in different directions, and the dog doesn't know which one to follow. It's kind of cruel, but I think that's where Nige will be, and his fans will be the dog in the middle, and they won't know where to turn.
He's just talking about the guy that you want to do, Glastonbury, and suddenly, I am doing it, what I mean? That's kind of the U-turns that these people do. When money talks, yeah? And if Elon Musk, right, suddenly says to Farage, mate, listen, I'm going to give you 80 million, but one of my things is, I quite like Tommy Robinson, and you are going to have to put him into your party. Money talks.
It'll happen straight away. Yeah, well, that much money talks very, very loudly. That much money, he's got a megaphone. He didn't even need to buy X. He's got a megaphone already, made of money.
I mean, you're old enough to remember when Mohammed al-Fayed, right? You're about the same age as me, right? Because I don't remember it that much, right? But when Mohammed al-Fayed first come on the scene here, and he was trying to tell the establishment here, who's that woman that lives in that great council house, I've got more money than her. Right, the establishment soon put him in his place, and they says, "Listen, mate, you can work in this country for 6 months, but you'll have to go and apply for a visa every day." So Starmer and I don't know if Starmer's part of the establishment or anybody else. I don't think he is. right?
What?
But
He
the
absolutely is. He's the
establishment-
Prime Minister, apart from anything else.
No, he's the Prime Minister because he's been voted by the people, right? There's
Yeah.
certain people that get put in, right, by the establishment, and I don't think...
Oh, you're talking
he
about the
quite-
deep state.
The deep state,
Right.
yeah? When the deep state gets involved, right, and they see a Johnny Foreigner who's Elon Musk, he might be the richest person in the world, right? He's belittling this country. When the big state gets involved, yeah?
I think that they'll roll over. Everybody will roll over. They always do. Everyone's got a price, and he can afford to buy anyone and anything. And it appears to have gone to his head. Somebody should... if he does have people close to him, Elon Musk, then maybe they should sit him down and see if they can talk some sense into him, because he appears to be becoming megalomaniacal. Iranji, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Hammersmith. Robert.
Hi.
Robert.
Yeah, about this doing up of Buckingham Palace. King Charles has got so much money, it's not going to make a dent in his finances, so why shouldn't he pay for it? Why do we have to pay for it?
I agree entirely.
It seems like rich people, whether they're royalty, big business, politicians, they're just as anal about saving money and having to making money. They don't want to pay anything out, want to keep everything they got.
It's weird. It seems like the more money you have, the more desperate you are to keep all of it and make more of it, even though you can't.
Can I ask a question as well?
You couldn't spend it in 10 lifetimes, and they still want to make more.
Yeah. Why half the DAB radio stations so currently no service available, including LBC London?
Really?
Yeah, there's about a dozen that you can't get hold of.
What, is that
about
just
4 or 5 days have been no service available.
Really? Have you tried...
Planet Rock, Kerrang, Absolute Rock, Eagle AC...
I don't know. Have you
River.
tried... Hang on a minute. Have you tried... because sometimes they do change around. I'm not very technical, but sometimes the stations do change around the I know it's not a frequency if it's DAB, but with their positioning, and you have to...
I've tried rescanning all the way through.
You
a few
have,
times
right,
and nothing.
okay. Well, I don't know. You're going to have to ask an engineer about that, Robert, because I've got no clue. I did not know that was even an issue. Let's see. This says... amazing that the apologists for Bodger are all forgetting the phrase that was often applied to his... Oh, no, I've read that. And leave him alone. He's doing his best.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
To which the answer is, of course, well, if that's his best, then maybe we should get somebody else. Hey, Bodge.
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment on that. He's still doing it today. Oh, everything's worse without me. Painful. Absolutely excruciating. He used to be the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
No, well, and then it got worse.
Absolutely.
Sambat. Hello, John.
I like listening to Ranjit.
Oh, yes.
He makes a lot of sense. But you know the mob listening to your phone thing.
What?
You know you're going to go out about people listening to your phones.
Oh, I've got a story about your phone is listening to you, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who's gonna listen to somebody saying darts? And me saying...
Yeah, it's worse than that, though, John. It's worse than that.
I mean, in what way?
Well, it's what I'm not saying is that people are on the end of your phone and they're just transcribing all the silly and consequential things you say. No, it's been robotized.
Affirmative.
Yeah, robotized. It's robots, and they're hoovering up vast amounts of information. But don't spoil the surprise, because I'll tell you about that in the next hour. All right.
I'll tell you what information could you hoover up? Because you can't... I should imagine languages is a problem for them.
Well, yeah, I probably haven't got much information from you, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, yeah. But you won't be getting anything out of me because you wouldn't understand a word I was saying.
Not a word you were saying, no. I know I can't.
But, yeah. I mean, it's so much goes on your programme before I get to it.
Yeah.
You don't know where to start.
No, I know. And I am aware that people have been waiting a very, very long time, and I apologise for that. And what they called in about first of all, is probably a topic that I just dealt with in passing and have talked about 86,000 different things since. And so they're... but we can go backwards and we can go forwards and we can go sideways. I mean, that's the nature of these Friday and Saturday night shows.
You talked about Meghan Markle last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting because I think it was when all the royal family thing kicked off by the right-wing newspapers, where the absolutely racist bunch got stuck into it. So to speak. And,
well, if it wasn't the racism part, it was just because they wrote her up as a hate figure, and then they could basically go to town because anything that she did could be an excuse to pour vitriol all over. There she is smiling while there's misery in the world, stupid stuff like that, and they just do it over and over and over again. It's absolutely endless.
Like the royal family do.
Well, I don't know about... do they?
Smiling in a condescending way. And I always
while there's misery in the world, yeah.
Yeah, while when it all kicked off, I think of a soul song by a group called Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh, yeah.
It's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
Rock and roll!
Yeah.
They want to listen to that.
It's a family affair. Sing!
That's the one.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Yes, I got detailed files about what your phone is listening to you, which is actually quite concerning, and plenty else besides, including about 3 million texts that I haven't got around to reading yet. 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Everything is going extremely well.
Hello, I've been waiting for you. Hello.
Yes, I've mostly been waiting to speak to Sophie in Wanstead. Hello, Sophie.
Hello, Nick. I've been waiting for ages. I must be dedicated.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. But as I was waiting, there are two other topics you mentioned that I can mention first.
Mm.
So girding my loins means, I Googled it. It means wearing a girdle.
You're going to regret that.
No, it means wearing a girdle to get ready for a metaphorical fight.
Really?
Because the girdle keeps in the long tunic or the shirt.
Really?
Mm.
It keeps in the long tunic and your gut, of course.
That as well. But you didn't know it was Mystery Hour, but it was. That's
I had
what it
no
means.
idea. Well, we've learned this is an educational program, no?
No.
Well, every now and again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before my main point, you mentioned three
This is
singers.
another sub-point, yes.
Yes, three singers who sang three of my favourite songs, so that made me happy.
Three singers?
So Neil Young.
Mm-hmm.
And Harvest Moon.
Yes.
Nils Lofgren and Valentine.
Nils Lofgren. I saw Nils Lofgren on I think it was his first tour here. He was supporting Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Rock and roll!
And he did that bouncing on it was the silliest thing I've seen a rocker do, really. He had this thing where he had a little trampoline and he used to jump on it and bounce and do a backflip while he was playing the guitar.
Oh, my goodness.
Why?
Wasn't he...
What would he do that for?
I can't remember. Did he play with Bruce Hornsby?
No, he plays with Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that's it. Sorry, how did I not know that? Of course. And Tom Petty, I love Free Falling. But
that was the first Tom Petty tour here, and that was the first album, which was a sensational record.
I love his songs. But Rod Stewart, I don't know if you like him, but he did one of my all-time favourite songs.
Please don't say I'm sexy if you think I'm no, sexy.
No.
I'm so
The Killing-
sexy. I just went into the I can't say his name, but it's the fat character in Austin Powers. I've just seen all of the Austin Powers movies lately, and I can't stop saying lines from them.
You went into Andy.
That's
Andy
my
Murray
problem. That wasn't Andy Murray. I'm so sexy.
Well, his song, "The Killing of Georgie," I love that song.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And
an extraordinary thing to have a hit with back then.
Yes, exactly, considering the times.
Yeah, and I heard it just lately on the radio, and having not heard it in decades, and I thought, wow, this really was a kind of
masterpiece.
A moment. Yeah, it was very, very. I mean, it's a story in a song. But because of its content, I mean, like Walk on the Wild Side, to play it back then on the radio, I would imagine that people who were programming the music for the radio in the early 70s, when I assume that came out, they weren't listening to it. They thought, oh, it's a new one from Rod Stewart, we'll just put it on, without actually listening to what it was.
Yes, I don't think they understood what it meant. But then again, look at Freddie Mercury and the fact that he could authentically be himself during those times. I think that's quite a brave thing to do. I have to say, Freddie Mercury was born in Kashmir, and that's where my parents are from. So I'm really... But my main point, Nick.
Yes. We're all hanging on the edge of our seats. Get on with it.
You can hang on for an hour like I did.
Right.
My main point is, I'm so disappointed that you do not know this, because you are so intelligent. You mentioned hamsters.
Yes.
Everyone knows that they are born in the primary school teacher's classroom. They live in the primary school teacher's classroom, and they die in the primary school teacher's classroom.
And they stink up
the
the primary school teacher's classroom. What a smell they make.
I know, and I don't know why children volunteered to take them home for the holiday.
No, I can't believe they still do that. I mean, apart from the health and safety implications, both for the children and the hamster, that just doesn't seem something that they would do these days. Do they still do that?
But we don't do that in secondary. In secondary, we have more fierce creatures, and I think it's
fierce.
It's a lizard, a big lizard in one of the.
Oh, man with his hang on a minute, man with his hand in the air. Yeah.
So my mum works in a nursery school.
Yeah,
and they have a snail and a guinea pig.
A snail?
Yeah, a giant snail.
How big?
It's much bigger than you ever get in a garden.
What? How big is big?
I mean, like, that big? No, that big.
As big as a man's fist?
Yeah, I'd say it probably is around the similar size of a small man's fist.
That's too big.
But it's in a cage, it's not like...
Well, I don't care what it's in. I'm just saying, for a snail, that is just too big, and that's a fact. Somebody should be looking into that very strongly.
Nick, your producer is lovely. No disrespect to your producer. It must be a private school, because the snail is really tame. There's a lizard.
It wouldn't make any difference if it was tame or not. He's got his hand in the air again. Yes?
It's not a private school.
It's not a private school, no. Tame.
Okay,
a tame snail. Did you just say that?
Yes, there's a lizard. It's a big lizard in one of the science
I wouldn't like
classroom.
that. That's just wrong. How big a lizard is it? Is it the size of a man's fist?
No, God, about a foot.
Oh, that's about 10 inches too long, in my opinion.
Yes, and I wasn't aware of this. I had no idea it was there. Yeah. And the sixth formers told me that there was...
What kind of lizard is it? It's not one of them monitor lizards, is it? Because that could bite an entire child's head off.
I am going to Google this and give you the answer next week.
Okay.
But no, actually, I'll ask the science teacher what kind of lizard it is. We have to keep the pupils under control somehow.
Yeah, well, threaten them with a vicious lizard. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for the good news, Sophie.
Okay.
Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. This text says, I fully understand what you were saying. Oh, well, that's good. What was I saying? See, this is another one of these people that are texting me like we're having a conversation. Is this even from today? Are we on today's yet?
What second?
Well, we don't know. I'll just read it anyway. I fully understand what you were saying. In actual fact, the Labour government, could target issues by saying that they are going to sort them out and dedicate money to those issues. The roads in the UK are worse than in Southeast Asia. There's more holes in this country than there are in the hopes of Donald Trump's supporters' dreams. Also, the NHS is one of the worst healthcare services in the world, and the dentistry industry, don't get me started. You can send a WhatsApp and get a same-day appointment in Indonesia. You would never dream of that being the case in the UK, even if you are lucky enough to have a dentist, says that person. There you are. You see, if you've got a problem with your teeth, just send a WhatsApp and you can get an appointment in Indonesia. Problem solved. Let me just scroll ahead to see if I am actually on today's text, because oh my God, I'm not. Oh, there's too many. Stop sending me texts. I mean, I appreciate it and all, but I can't read. This would be a Nick reads people's texts show. It's supposed to be a phone-in. I mean, that's just. Oh, message coming in. I've not put any texts in for the last 2 hours. So my glamorous assistant next door is just bulk ignoring you because there's too many. Or, actually, I'm not getting through them fast enough. I think that's what he's saying. I think I just received a slap around the face. Can you believe that? On my own show. Hammersmith, hello, John.
I got to say, I like your shtick, man.
Thanks.
I mean, it's a real. After listening to the pearl clutchers and the whiners on the Day Show, it's a real uplift.
Cheers.
Regarding Elon Musk and his tirade against the Prime Minister, that's not aimed at us. That's aimed at the American audiences to prepare them for the upcoming pivot away from Europe and Ukraine towards China. China, as you may recall, had one of their ships drag anchor in the Baltic and snapped a NATO member's internet cable. That's a direct attack. That's a violation.
Was it China? I thought that people were pointing at.
It was a Chinese ship.
I thought people.
It was a Chinese ship.
All right, hang on a minute. I thought people were pointing the finger of blame at Russia.
Well, Russia, Iran, China.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You've got a supervillain called Dumbass in Moscow. You've got the Tehran Tuggies who like to beat their own women to death. And you've got the fat China and skinny China who are arming and cosseting both of them. So we're up against four of them.
The problem that Elon Musk and Donald Trump has is that Donald Trump, I'm sure, wants to put tariffs on China. He did it last time, and he keeps saying that he's going to do it. Elon Musk, on the other hand, his business depends on China because that's where the batteries come from and that's where a lot of his cars are made. And so that's going to be, they're going to be butting heads about that. And I bet I know who's going to win.
Yeah, there is a solution, however. The European Union just floated 500 billion euros to crash start their defense industry based on the idea that it's probably going to happen, that he is going to pivot. We must do the same. I've called for £1 trillion of cash and incentives for our defense industry because our uniforms are made in China and our rifles are made in Sweden. What are we supposed to do if we get cut off like we did in the 30s and 40s? Is the British Army supposed to stand naked on the cliffs of Dover and waggle their junk at the enemy?
Oh!
It didn't work too well with the Romans. So until we can boot and clothe our soldiers from boots to helmets and arm them too.
Yeah.
We must not put troops into the field. By all means, send trainers, because we're training them here right now. We've trained 50,000 Ukrainian troops here under Operation Interflex. By all means, send trainers and regulars to Ukraine to train the troops there.
Yeah.
But no boots on the ground until we have a viable defense industry. We must not fall into that trap. Think about what a tempting target it would be. Of the 70,000 troops we have, 20,000 are on the sick list. That leaves us with 50. Under UN obligations, we're under the 30-30-30 rule, which is 30,000 troops within 30 days and provisions for 30 days.
Yeah.
You put those in the field as peacekeepers, as this ridiculous plan seems to suggest. If you take them out, we're defenseless, and the replacements have no guns and no uniforms.
Yeah, even the ones that we would send out aren't really fit to fight. I mean, a report comes out every now and again that suggests that they're too overweight and they wouldn't want to do it anyway.
No, I wouldn't slag off the British Army like that. I think the British Army is an excellent institution, a good place to learn a trade, and certainly has honourable traditions going back centuries.
Well, yeah,
and we have one before.
Historical
it's just
performance
we don't have a defence industry.
All right, okay, but historical performance is no indicator of future performance. And if we're just resting on what we used to be like, then that's no good for the future. I just say that. 1 minute. That the thing that a lot of people were bizarrely frightened of, it seems to be the answer to me. A European defence force. Thereby, you could save money by eliminating the doubling up of whatever it is that, and concentrate on what specific countries do best. And by those means, it would be more efficient. It would cost less, and they would be spread out where they're actually needed to be. But we didn't want to.
I agree with you.
Wow.
I actually do agree with you, and I would point out that we've put a pretty decent wood chipper in front of Vladimir Putin. He's gone through 3 armies. He just fell into a massive trap in Kursk, lost 45,000 men in 1 month. In 1 month. 2,000 in 1 day. Both of those are new records. He lost 350 vehicles trying to attack a prepared position. This guy does not know what he's doing. Zelensky's right. He is a dumbass.
Yeah, but he's still there, and he still is, by many accounts,
only just the
richest, the real richest man in the world. Hey, John, it's been educational, but I got to go.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, boys.
Matt in Worcester says, when interest rates were low, rather than updating our infrastructure, the Conservatives chose austerity, hampering economic growth for a decade. The winter fuel allowance removal prompted pensioners to sign up for pension credit and get means-tested a benefit for the first time, worth more than the winter fuel allowance, while stopping payments to the rich. They've closed the loophole of the rich buying up land and calling themselves farmers. There's a lot Labour are getting right. Correctamundo. But they're getting zero credit for it, because they're not telling us about it. I mean, it is actually a lot about communication. It's like the journalist's credo. Tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you've said. And Skier needs to get started on doing that straight away. And but the first order of business should be to prevent weirdo foreign trillionaires from interfering in our business. And forget about upsetting Donald Trump. He's going to get upset anyway. He's upset about flags now, for crying out loud. President-elect Donald Trump went on social media to rant on Friday about American flags being flown at half-mast during his inauguration. This is because of Jimmy Carter. He was upset at the situation and flipped his wig because his opponents were laughing at him.
I don't wear a toupee.
The Democrats are all giddy about our magnificent American flag potentially being at half-mast during my inauguration, Trump wrote. They think it's so great and are so happy about it because, in actuality, they don't love our country. They only think about themselves.
Booze.
Oh, I got that wrong. Oh, that was the wrong one.
What?
That should have been that. They only think about themselves. I mean, I know with him that every accusation is a confession, but come on, Donny. I mean, try not to be so blooming obvious.
Oh, shut up!
He said, they don't love our country. They only think about themselves, said Donald Trump. He said, nobody wants to see this and no American can be happy about it. Well, actually, over 50% of Americans will probably be very happy about it. And we do want to see this. Trump got 49.8% of the vote. Not over half, as he would tell you. I mean, Kamala Harris got 48.3%. It was one of the closest races in history. And in recognition of the life of the late Democratic President Jimmy Carter, who died earlier this week at the age of 100, President Joe Biden issued a proclamation ordering U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff, as they call it, at the White House and other government locations for a period of 30 days from his death. And the Looney Tunes MAGA cultists said this is totally unacceptable. It's never been done before. It's just Joe Biden being mean to Orange Jesus. Which is completely incorrect in every respect. It's always been done this way, as per the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. And it means that flags will be flown at half-mast through to January the 28th, more than a week after Trump's scheduled inauguration at the U.S. Capitol. He's freaking out. And social media is alight with jokes about Jimmy Carter leaving one last gift for Donald Trump, and the half-mast flag signifying not just the death of Jimmy Carter, but the death of democracy.
The American dream is dead.
Yeah, he killed it. Trump lied that the flags would be flown at half-mast for the first time ever during an inauguration of a future president. In 1972, Nixon took the oath of office while flags were flown at half-mast in memoriam of President Harry Truman. He lies and he lies and he lies. And his fans say they like him because he tells it like it is.
I love the poorly educated.
Trump's lost his cool before when events didn't go this way, of course. I mean, every time things don't go his way. Like a baby. At a rally days before November's election, he fumed over technical issues with his microphone. You've got to be kidding, he says. Do you want to see me knock the hell out of people backstage, he said. Yeah, we do. We would like to see you lumber over to them and try your giant oaf. He also got worked up about a malfunctioning teleprompter. And he got worked up about not looking slim in photographs. Well, there's a way around that, Donny. Put the bucket down and walk away. He also got upset when he had to walk downstairs because he's frightened of that and ramps. Very, very scary. And he got upset when jurors didn't smile at him during his hush money trial. But, you know, apart from that...
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Yeah, than any baby. He can be more presidential than any baby.
Don't be rude.
0345 6060 973. Bedford, David. Is there anybody out there? Oh, that's my fault. There he is. David.
Hello?
Yes, David.
Hello, Nick. I was just, you were talking about AI intelligence.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, my point is from the conversations I have had with Gemini, which is Google's AI intelligence,
yeah,
it may ask me the wrong answer, but it's non-judgmental.
It may ask you the wrong answer.
Well, yeah. So if I ask it a question, it will not come up with the right answer.
Right.
It's non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental. But okay.
Yeah.
So what did you ask it that you thought it would be judgmental about?
Well, I was very deep in conversation with it, and I was talking about the Constitution.
The Constitution?
No, sorry. The
Constipation? Consultation.
No. Consciousness of the universe.
You are talking to a robot about the consciousness of the universe?
Yes.
What was the specific question you asked it?
I asked if there was a consciousness of the universe.
Do you mean something like a higher being?
Absolutely, yes.
Like God? Right. Okay, so is there a God, you said?
Well, no, not the question I asked, but in general respect.
More or less, right. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm interested. What did it say?
It turned around and said that there may be a possibility of it.
Oh.
But then I asked, would there be a non-aspect of it?
Oh, what?
So I'm not a god.
Well, isn't that the same question? Is there a God? Is there not a God? Isn't that the same thing?
Well, no. It depends if you... It's a judgmental form of, is there a right or wrong answer?
Yeah, well, okay, so it must have said, no, there is no right or wrong answer. It seems as though the internet is agnostic. It said, didn't know.
Yes and no to the answer.
It's saying
yes
and
no.
Right.
But the main thing I would say is, when I said, is there not a God, i.e. not a consciousness of a universe?
Yeah.
Yeah. It went into explanations of why there not be a explanation to a non-God. Yeah.
Well, now you've kind of lost me. Can I talk directly to the robot? Can you put the robot on?
I'd love you to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'm going to be doing that.
The main point I'm trying to make, realistically, is even if there is not a God, there is no consciousness to the universe. We still live in the universe. Yeah?
Yeah. We still live in the universe, even though there may or may not be a God. Yes.
Right, so we still exist. And the universe still exists.
Right, so there might be a God, but there might not be not a God. Wow, blown my mind.
Yeah. And when I've blown my mind, it comes back to... when I've already blown my mind, but when I've blown my mind, it comes back to me of what I am, who I am at this moment.
Yeah. Which is?
Unfortunately, only existing... Well, no, not only existing.
You're inhabiting a meatsack right now, David, and every moment of your being is a unique moment in the history of the universe. Nobody has ever gone through the same thing that you are going through right now. You are a unique and special person. Remember that.
Just like you, Nick. Absolutely.
Well, not just like me.
No, you are unique. You need that.
Yeah, I'm a unique meat sack. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it's been how should we put it? It's been inspirational. No, not quite. It's been peculiar. That doesn't really sum it up. It's been awesome. Yes. I am full of awe. Up to my eyeballs with it, I am. Thanks a lot, David. As soon as the robot lets you know anything really significant, like, 42, something like that, then I want you to let me know straight away. Promise me you'll do that.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
I am not one of your fans!
This text says, I think I'm still on yesterday's text. It's just, I can't keep up. But it's not like I'm one to complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
It says, can I ask all the boomers complaining about winter fuel allowance and the Labour government, why do they have nothing to say about families and children being trapped by the 2-child benefit cap to the extent that families are having to rely on food banks to survive? Where's the triple lock for children? I'm sick and tired of these entitled pensioners. It's all me, me, me with them. That's an anonymous text. Let's see now. Sevenoaks. Hello, Mark.
Hi. Back in September, Femi Olawale said at the Rejoin EU march, that if Labour didn't stop paying out the money for the Brexit trade friction, it wouldn't have the money to repair things in time, and people would get fed up with both Labour and Conservatives and go towards reform. And it seems that the polls indicate that he had a point, which is rather unfortunate. I spoke to him afterwards and asked him whether if we had PR it would be easy to get back in the EU, and he agreed that it would be.
Yeah, well, we've been down that road before. The people who could deliver us proportional representation is the party that will have the power at the time, and they won't want to, or won't even want to consider the idea of giving any of that power up, and so it's not going to happen.
But when they were talking about the advance of reform and so on, and the fact that reform is second in a lot of Labour seats, they pointed out that a number of Labour cabinet ministers are at risk. Now, ordinary Labour members are in favour of PR. It's the top of the Labour Party that's resisting it. But if their seats are on the line, I mean, their seats they would have no trouble in getting their seats if it was PR, because people would put them as quite a high preference amongst the Labour candidates because they're well known. So they'd have no trouble in retaining their seats if it was PR. But,
no, I don't buy that. Just because they're well known, no.
No, well,
people don't vote for their minister. They vote for whoever is the head of the party. I mean, I know that technically they don't, but I bet if I went around the country with a clipboard and with a fiver attached to it and asked people who their local member of parliament is, I bet that fiver would remain untaken.
But the point is that with PR, you can have a form of PR where people put the candidates in order of preference. So they would be putting the Labour candidates, assuming they were going to vote.
But what's the point of talking about this? Because it's not going to happen.
Well, it's something that threatens those cabinet ministers. Another point is that Keir Starmer has said that we didn't know what we were voting for at the last election.
Keir Starmer
we didn't know about the black hole.
Oh.
I mean, people argue about whether the politicians did, but I think that...
I don't think he said that we didn't know what we were voting for. He may have said that he didn't know what he was getting into financially, but that's probably true.
Yes, but that means that we didn't know what they were getting into financially either, and therefore that is a good reason for asking us whether we think we can still afford Brexit. Because you can't argue on the one hand...
So you want another referendum, but there's not much point in talking about that, because that's not going to happen either.
Well, but what you're saying is that we're going down the road that Femi was talking about, and the Labour Party are just going to walk into the car crash that's coming...
Yeah, it seems that that's our immediate future, yeah. Unless he can... persuade those people who are resisting, which may include himself, to do the smart thing and nip the Faragists in the bud by just not rejoining the European Union, but just making it easier to do trade with our nearest and biggest trading partner. I mean, to do otherwise would be absolutely insane. So let's hope that he's not insane.
Yeah, well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
The thing is, of course, that what you're talking about there is a sort of a compromise, but there doesn't seem to me to be any point in not being a member of the EU if you're going to be following the EU rules.
We can talk about this all night long, but there's no point because it's not going to happen. No, certainly not in our immediate future, but we may come to an accord with the countries in the EU that might make it easier for us to make more money and have growth and all those other things that are a way of improving our lives, but not as much or as quickly as spreading the wealth around that we already have and that is concentrated in the hands of too few people. But that is another conversation entirely. Mark, I've got to move on. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Lawrence in Croydon says, Cruella took offence when she was on LBC when a caller said that she wanted to ban rough sleeping. She firmly denied this accusation, but failed to add that she wanted to ban tents for them to sleep in. She did make quite the splash when she was on that show, didn't she? Lawrence in Croydon says, am I the only person in the UK who thinks 6 palaces for the king, off the top of my head, is just plain greedy? Well, never mind about the palaces. What about the castles? And never mind about the palaces and the castles. What about the houses and the estates and the homes and the mansions and the cottages? And all of those things are bigger than they sound. I mean, a cottage is as big as what you and I might think of as a palace. You know, if you've got a 20-room cottage, that's not really what you or I would think of as a cottage. But they do. And hundreds of thousands of acres of prime land and, all of the rest of it. They got Fabergé eggs up to their eyeballs, leading a life of luxury that almost nobody else on the planet, including the world's richest person, could imagine. I mean, who else has got a 700-room house with a garden and a lake in the middle of the world's most expensive city? No one. Just them. And he doesn't even like it. Derby. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Nick. Or Special Nick, as you were called earlier.
Was I?
The guy not the last one, the one before.
Special Nick.
I think he was calling you from the late 1960s on a trip, wasn't he?
Oh, right. Asking a robot whether there's such a thing as God. Well, the robot don't know any more than the information that has been programmed into it.
Wow. What I'm calling about, Nick, was, I don't know if you've seen the clip of Elon Musk's father being interviewed.
I've seen one of them, yeah.
He's talking about he had a part in an emerald mine, three emerald mines.
I haven't seen that, no.
Yeah, I've seen it on social media, on Instagram or something. And now the interesting bit to me, which I've got some personal experience about, was there's a small bit in it where he says that he and the family, including Elon, went over to America to sell the emeralds.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a small part. But I was best man to my friend in the 90s in Bogota. He married a Colombian girl, and her father was a lawyer who fell out with the mafia over there, the drugs barons. He did something to upset them. And anyway, he was involved at one point with an emerald mine because they were strapped for cash, and he could get into America, and he got his son out there working, and they used to go to the emerald mines in Colombia, buy the emeralds cheap, and then get them into America and sell them to make money.
Huh.
Now, the interesting thing was what they did, instead of just taking them on the person, they had them made into jewellery and wore the emeralds as jewellery to get into America to go and visit a son who worked on the cruise lines, sell the jewellery, and then bring the money back.
Right.
Which I thought, I wonder why Elon's dad took the whole family on holiday from South Africa to America to sell the emeralds. Right,
well, I don't know that he did that, and whatever you're about to say is, well...
It would be very illegal. Well, I can understand why
I thought that Elon... All right. I thought that Elon Musk entered America under curious legal means. Didn't he? Did he have a visa to come in and work? Because I think that he was... I saw a video of him sitting down with his brother, I think. And his brother said something of the order of, don't you remember when we came here illegally? And, they had a little bit of a joke about that. Or probably shouldn't have said that, and et cetera and so on. So maybe, Elon, I may have that wrong. And if so, I apologise. But maybe Elon Musk is the kind of person that Elon Musk doesn't want to come to America. Yeah, and that that H1N visa thing that allows tech companies to hire cheaper foreign staff than they would be able to find in America. And Donald Trump was against it, and now he's for it. And Elon Musk and all those weirdo tech bros that are behind Donald Trump with all the cash, they're all for it because, bizarrely, they've got all the money in the world, but their prime concern is to make more of it by in many cases, paying people less. See Jeff Bezos for full details. Anyway, Simon, got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. This text says, Keir Starmer should legalise cannabis. It'll help the economy, put a big stop to a lot of gangs and free up the police for more important crimes. Plus, lots of people would love him for it. Well, I think that would be a smart thing for him to do. I mean, politically speaking, let's not get into whether it's bad for you because alcohol is bad for you and cake is bad for you and crossing the road is bad for you and all these things. But if he's going to bring the age of voting down to 16, then appeal to people that young to give them something that they can actually relate to. I'm not suggesting that anybody at the age of 16 or anybody else of any age should smoke marijuana, but, we're becoming an outlier in that. I mean, look at the rest of Europe, America, with how conservative small c they are. And they are, there's practically not a state in the Union that does not allow marijuana in some way or form. Most of Europe. I mean, we're still, in this country, digging our heels in as though the war on drugs can actually be won. How is the war on drugs going, by the way?
Fabulous.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I would say he's incompetent, but I don't want to do that because that's not nice.
Thanks for being nice, Donny. You're the best. This text says, Nick, going to watch a recreational ice hockey game in Coventry. It's quite fitting having the snow. Could be our new national sport. What do you think? Ice hockey? Boring! Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Of all the stupid American sports, that has got to be the worst. It's worse than baseball. It's even worse than American football. It's worse than basketball. Ice hockey. I mean, you can't see the thing for a start. It just zips about so fast, your eye can't keep up with it. It's the worst sport ever. And I'll take no argument about that. Notting Hill, Shunto.
Well, I'm here to talk about, yesterday you talked about sumo wrestling, and yes. You mentioned that it wasn't a sport, and I am Japanese, and I'm very offended.
You're very offended. Okay. Sizzle sumo wrestling for me.
So, sumo wrestling is a very old tradition in Japan, and it's celebrated, so I think you all Brits should come to Japan and actually see some, because it's very interesting.
No, it looks like two enormously fat men slapping each other to me.
They are officially athletes, so they officially are athletes in Japan.
Yeah, but they're not though, are they? Really?
They eat professionally, and they get the fat.
How do they get that fat? Because Japan is not known for the largeness of its citizens, is it?
No, but there are some parts of Japan that are really fat.
Are there?
And there's some other parts that are not. For example, the south tends to be fatter than the north.
But what do they eat, then, that they don't eat in the north?
Well, they eat a lot more, essentially.
But I thought that traditional Japanese fare was the kind of thing that didn't make you fat. I mean, I guess if you just sat there and just did nothing but eat, then you would pile on.
Yeah, that does make you fat. Yeah.
Yeah, that will pile on the pounds. But I mean, it's with the Western diet that got introduced to Japan. I thought that you start eating our fast food and all of that good stuff. Yeah, that is when the Japanese and the Chinese started both growing taller and going wider.
Yep, but Japan's still very conservative. So. Yeah, because until the late 18th century, we didn't open up borders. So the Americans came up and said, knock, knock, please open your boat.
Yeah.
So we had no choice but to open it and do trade with them. So.
Knock, knock. You know, I'm fascinated by Japan and all sorts of all the Japanese design and all the rest of it with your gardens and furniture and all of that. It really appeals to me, but I would be very concerned about going to Japan because it would seem too foreign to me.
Yeah, the issue is that Japan is still closed up in itself, and despite of the fact that loads of people do understand English and they welcome in people from outside, they don't feel at ease with them because they're not Japanese.
But my question would be, do you get the same feeling coming from Japan to the West? Does it seem too foreign to you? Like,
no.
Do you feel like
For
a
me, it's the other way
stranger
around.
in a strange land?
For me, I'm always a stranger I'm always a stranger in everywhere. So I'm not fully Western, and when I go to Japan, I'm not fully Japanese. So this is an issue, but it's also a pro. So it's good because you always know how the other side understands it, and you can see both of sides of the coin without wanting to want to see it. But
if you were in Japan, would you go and see a sumo wrestling event? And if so, okay, well, how long would you sit there for?
For the entirety of the thing.
How long is that?
Well, if the two players are good, it takes about 5 minutes. But
so you would sit there? No, but you would sit there for 5 minutes, or you would sit there for the entire evening? How long is one of those events? How long do they last?
Half a day. But
half a day?
I wouldn't sit down for half a day.
Right.
So I'd probably leave.
Leave, yeah. That would be my favorite. That would be my favorite part, the leaving.
It does get boring when you see two men slapping each other.
Yeah, slapping each other.
It's still a sport, technically.
Okay, well, technically, yeah. I mean, if you have to say technically, then that kind of means it isn't.
Well, let's keep it as it is.
All right. Hey, how come Japan plays baseball and it's the only other country in the world that does that?
Americans.
Yeah, Americans and the Japanese. Why is it? Why did the Japanese play baseball?
Well, after the Second World War, the Americans came and they just taught us a lot. And,
same as us in cricket. We forced it on them.
Yeah, the Indians, yeah, and they're better.
Right. Okay, well, that was entertaining. Thanks a lot, Shunto. Cheers,
you.
mate. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. I did mention earlier on that your phone is listening to you, and it would be rude of me not to explain why. So I'll do that now. Apple. You know Apple, don't you? Yeah, that's them. Apple. I hate Apple because they screwed up my iTunes. But don't get me on that. Apple will pay £77 million to settle a court case which alleged its devices listened to their owners without their consent. What? The tech giant had been accused of using its virtual assistant Siri to eavesdrop on and record conversations for more than a decade. I knew it. Customers with iPhones, iPads and other Apple products can request Siri's assistance by saying, "Hey Siri." I bet your thing has just burst into action. But the lawsuit alleged that the firm was obtaining user conversations even when the words weren't uttered. Some of the recordings were then shared with advertisers in an attempt to sell their products to consumers. That's the allegation. And all those people, like Carol McGiffin, who said that they were talking about something and then they kept getting adverts for the thing that they were talking about whenever they looked online. I mean, people like me just thought they were crazy. It's a coincidence, I said. Don't be daft, Carol, I said.
What?
Yeah, said that. Turns out you were completely correct in every respect.
Oh, right, yeah.
Lead plaintiff Fumiko Lopez claimed that she and her daughter were both recorded without their permission and went on to receive targeted promotions for products such as Nike trainers. Well, that would drive you mad, wouldn't it? Because you'd think, why am I getting adverts for this thing that I was talking about just the other day? Apple's legal team said it will confirm the company has permanently deleted individual Siri audio recordings collected by Apple prior to October 2019. Hands up who believes them. Now hands up who doesn't. Overwhelming. Apple is not acknowledging any wrongdoing in the new settlement, which was filed on Tuesday. Still needs the approval of a US judge. And you know what? I admit that I don't really understand the law in this country or America. But can you really pay $77 million to settle a case and not accept that you've done something wrong? You're just handing out $77 million because you're a nice company? Like Prince Andrew handed over $16 million to a woman he'd never met. Like Donald Trump has to hand over, what is it, Donny, $83 million because he did not assault a woman in a store changing room and then didn't defame her. That's right, ain't it, Donny?
Oh, shut up!
If the Apple settlement is approved, tens of millions of consumers who owned iPhones and other Apple devices from September in 2014 until the end of last year could file their own claims. Aha. And I know your ears are pricking up. We're in the money. But, big but, only those consumers based in the United States can benefit from this proposed payout. Yeah. Each consumer could receive up to $20 per Siri-equipped device covered by the settlement. Although the payment could be reduced or increased depending on the volume of claims. Estimates in the court documents predict that only 3 to 5% of eligible consumers would file claims. And they would also be limited to seeking compensation on a maximum of 5 devices. So if I'm reading this right, it's $77 million for the whole thing. And if 77 million people file a claim, they might get $1 each.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, and the tech giant's been accused of using its virtual assistant to eavesdrop on and record conversations for more than a decade. And Apple is not acknowledging any wrongdoing in the new settlement, which was filed on Tuesday, still needs the approval of a judge. And lawyers representing consumers had estimated Apple could have required to pay roughly £1.2 billion if the company had been found guilty of violating wiretapping and other privacy laws. So they settled before it got to that. And here's the kick in the teeth. You might get, if you're American and you were affected by this, up to $20. The lawyers will seek up to £23.8 million from the settlement to cover their own fees. Wow. Lawyers. It's not the first class action lawsuit Apple's faced in recent years. A year ago, the firm began paying out a £400 million lawsuit claiming it intentionally slowed down US devices. In March, it agreed to pay £385 million to settle a case in Britain with Norfolk County Council, having been accused of defrauding a pension fund managed by the local authority. 2 months ago, Which, the magazine, started a class action lawsuit against Apple in the UK, accusing it of ripping off customers for its iCloud platform. But, you know, that's okay because Apple made a ton of money. The company recorded $383 billion in total revenue in 2023, earned nearly $97 billion in net income. So that fine I was talking about would be 0.09% of their profits. That'll teach them. Chum. 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 Chum.